The first lie I ever told myself about Barbara was that I loved her. The second, and perhaps more insidious, was that she loved me back. These weren't harmless self-deceptions. They were the rotten foundation stones of the life I'd meticulously, almost obsessively, constructed. My name is Everett. I'm 42. And if you're looking for the moment the meticulously curated facade of my life began to crack, it wasn't the day that support beam at the construction site snapped like a rotten twig. No, the cracks were there long before, hairline fractures I'd ignored, or worse, actively plastered over. The beam was just the sledgehammer that shattered the whole damn thing. I'd always considered myself a man of control, of precision. My world operated on rules I set, on expectations I enforced. Barbara, 39, with a wit that could turn razor sharp when she felt cornered, which, I admit, was often, was a variable I'd thought I'd managed. Gage, her son, a surly 16-year-old human embodiment of defiance, was a project I'd largely deemed a failure, though not for lack of trying to mold him. He was 8 when Barbara made the regrettable decision to marry me, bringing him into my orbit. From day one, he'd looked at me like I was something he'd scraped off his shoe. Fine. I wasn't looking for a son, I was looking for a completed picture, and a wife and stepson were necessary, if inconvenient, components. The treehouse I built him? A strategic move, an attempt to buy compliance. Teaching him to fish, the batting cage, calculated gestures. There were no moments of connection, not really. There were moments he was less overtly hostile, moments I could almost convince myself my investment was yielding a return. But beneath it all, the rot festered. Barbara knew it. Gage certainly knew it. And if I were honest, a part of me knew it too. But admitting it would mean admitting failure, and I don't do failure. Our 8 years of marriage were a testament to my endurance, my ability to maintain an illusion. Habit, not love, yes. Routine was my fortress. Morning coffee, precisely at 6:30 a.m., the same tired jokes that had long ago lost their humor but served as conversational placeholders. Date nights, third Friday of the month, Moretti's Italian, table by the window. We didn't fight much because I didn't allow it. Disagreements were managed, swiftly. Usually by me making it clear what the acceptable outcome was. Inoffensive and comfortable. For whom? For me, perhaps. For Barbara, I suspect it was a gilded cage. The red flags she waved. The girls' weekends that reeked of desperation for escape. The hushed, late-night phone calls. Her thumb glued to the screen. A small, secretive smile playing on her lips when she thought I wasn't looking. I didn't ignore them. I logged them. Each one was a mark in a ledger, a tally of her transgressions, fuel for the cold, simmering resentment I nurtured. I wasn't waiting for a 2x4 to the skull. I was, in my own way, biding my time. The support beam, in a perversely ironic twist, simply accelerated my timetable. Broken leg, multiple comminuted fractures, 3 ribs shattered, 1 nicking a lung, the taste of blood, coppery and hot, in my mouth. The doctors, bless their clueless hearts, kept prattling on about luck. Mr. Hayes, you're incredibly fortunate. Fortunate? I was inconvenienced. Severely. My meticulously planned life thrown into disarray by a faulty piece of timber and some shoddy workmanship. Agony was a constant companion, a dull, throbbing bass note beneath the screech of hospital machinery. Traction, tubes, the incessant, maddening beep, beep, beep. My sister, Bernice, fluttered in daily. Good old Bernice, always eager to please, to be needed. She brought bland, homemade soup I barely touched, and updates on Curtis, my dog, the only creature in my household whose loyalty I never questioned. She'd sit, knitting or reading, a comforting, predictable presence. She even stayed some nights, when the pain was a particularly vicious bastard. She was useful. And Barbara, my devoted wife? The first day, Gage had a game, a lie, easily verified. The second, Curtis was supposedly at death's door. Another lie. Bernice had just seen him, perfectly healthy. The third call, voicemail. Silence. By day 5, a flicker of something akin to irritation sparked within me. Not panic for her safety. I knew Barbara. She was a creature of self-preservation. No, this was defiance. This was her, seizing an opportunity. "You know Barbara, Ev," Bernice said one afternoon, her voice laced with that cloying sympathy I despised. "She's always been, well, you know, self-involved." Bernice, bless her simple heart, thought she was being insightful. She had no idea of the currents that ran beneath the surface of my marriage. A week bled into 10 days, then 2, then 3. The nurses, with their saccharine smiles and pitying glances, were almost unbearable. One of them, Tessa, younger, with kind, naive eyes, would sometimes linger. An extra pudding cup, a hesitant hand briefly touching mine. She never asked about Barbara, but the question hung in the sterile air between us, heavy and unspoken. I could see her cataloging me, filing me under neglected husband. Let her. It was nearly 4 weeks before I finally got Barbara on the phone. Her voice, when she answered, was breezy, infuriatingly casual, like I was a distant relative calling to ask for a loan. "So," I began, keeping my own voice level, a chilling calm I'd perfected over years. "Are you planning on gracing me with your presence at any point, or should I just assume you're measuring the drapes for my replacement?" A beat of silence. Then a sigh, weary and dismissive. "Everett, honestly, you're not worth the gas money. Just die fast or heal quick because this in-between shit is really dragging." Click. The line went dead. I held the cheap plastic receiver, listening to the dial tone. No, that wasn't the denial popping. That was the starting gun. Gage, her little viper, picked up on the extension, his voice cracking with adolescent malice, clearly coached. "Yeah, Dad, we don't miss you. Like, at all." Another click. I placed the receiver back in its cradle with deliberate slowness, stared at the acoustic tile ceiling. The heart monitor beeped its steady rhythm, a counterpoint to the cold, precise rage crystallizing in my chest. Dragging, am I? Pain medication dulls the body, true, but it sharpens the mind in other ways, strips away the softer edges. I lay there, night after sleepless night, the timeline of my marriage unspooling in my head. Every slight, every act of defiance from Barbara, every sneer from Gage. The cracks weren't blooming, they were chasms I'd allowed to exist, thinking I could bridge them with control and thinly veiled contempt. Bernice, my ever-loyal informant, became my eyes and ears. The bank account statements she brought were illuminating, significant withdrawals, ATM receipts from near jewelry stores I'd never authorized, online purchases from boutiques I didn't recognize. And then, the pièce de résistance, a printout of an email confirmation. 2 round-trip tickets to Cancun, departing in 3 weeks, paid for from our joint account. While I was tethered to machines, fighting off infections, she was planning a tropical getaway. With whom? The answer, Bernice supplied with grim satisfaction, was a neighbor. Silvio, some smooth-talking parasite who'd slithered into the house next door 6 months prior. Apparently, he'd been helping Barbara with little problems around the house. My house. "Think about it, Ev," Bernice said, her arms crossed, a look of righteous indignation on her face that mirrored my own, albeit a paler imitation. "She's not just spending your money, she's flaunting it. With him, while you're in here. Like this." She gestured vaguely at my broken body. "You're not just going to let her, are you?" She knew the answer. My mind, even fogged with opiates, was already working, crafting a response. Not a reaction, a meticulously planned campaign. But first, I needed out. The doctors hemmed and hawed. "Mr. Hayes, it's too soon. The risk of infection. Your leg requires constant monitoring." Blah, blah, blah. Tessa, the nurse, tried her gentle persuasion. "Everett, please, just a little longer, for your own good." Her concern was touching. Misplaced, but touching. I signed myself out against medical advice. A MA. A fitting acronym, I thought. I am a man who was about to reclaim what was his. Bernice, bless her anxious heart, drove me, her knuckles white on the steering wheel. Not home, not yet. To a Staybridge Suites, anonymous and sterile, a perfect staging ground. Are you sure about this, Ev? She'd fretted, hovering in the doorway of the bland hotel room. What if something happens? Your leg. Staying in that hospital, Bernice, makes me a patient, a victim. I settled myself onto the stiff bed, wincing as my leg protested. Out here, I'm a player again. A predator was the word that came to mind, but I kept that to myself. The first night alone in that soulless room was clarifying. The silence, broken only by the hum of the mini fridge and the distant wail of a siren, was a crucible. My wife, the woman who'd vowed sickness and health, was, at this very moment, likely laughing with her lover, spending my money. The betrayal wasn't a hot flush of anger. It was a cold, hard certainty, settling deep in my bones. The next few days were a blur of focused activity. A new bank account, solely in my name. Transferring every liquid asset I could legally touch. Securing documents, my prenuptial agreements. Yes, I'd been thorough even then. Titles, insurance policies. I called Barbara, my voice a careful blend of weakness and pain. Just going to be in here a while longer, I think. They're still worried about complications. Her response? A thumbs-up emoji, not even words. The sheer, breathtaking indifference of it was almost admirable in its audacity. That emoji became a symbol for me, a small digital monument to her contempt. It fueled me. Bernice, my diligent little spy, reported that Barbara was planning a girls' trip to Nashville. A long weekend. Silvio, I had no doubt, would be part of that equation, Nashville being a convenient halfway point to somewhere more illicit. Or perhaps he was the main event. It didn't matter. That weekend was my window. Operation Empty House was a go. I consulted a lawyer. Reggie. Not some slick downtown shark, but a guy Bernice knew from her church group. He showed up at the Staybridge in faded jeans and a band t-shirt, but his eyes were sharp, his questions precise. Divorce, obviously, I stated, no hesitation. He nodded, tapping his pen on a yellow legal pad. Okay, assets, liabilities. You got a prenup? Ironclad. Good man. Saves a lot of headaches. We need a full accounting. What was yours before? What's marital property? We go strictly by the book, clean, efficient. That's what I want, Reggie. Clean, efficient, and decisive. He gave me a long look. You want to hurt her, or you just want out? I want what's mine, I said, my voice flat. And I want her to understand the consequences of her choices. He scribbled a few more notes. All right, make your lists. Be thorough. We'll serve her when you're ready. The lists. Oh, the glorious, meticulous lists. Bernice, armed with her phone camera, infiltrated the house one afternoon while Barbara was at work, likely a euphemism for an assignation with Silvio. Every piece of furniture, every appliance, every knick-knack photographed and catalogued. The living room set, joint purchase. The dining table I'd inherited from my grandmother. Mine. The ridiculously expensive espresso machine she'd insisted on. Marital. The bedroom suite I'd owned long before she and her spawn had darkened my doorway. Unequivocally mine. The movers were booked for Saturday, 8 a.m. sharp, swift, merciless. Bernice would supervise the heavy lifting, my leg still a map of pain and metal, but I would be there. I needed to be there, to witness the dismantling. Saturday morning. The moving truck, an obscene yellow behemoth, rumbled to a stop outside the house. A house I hadn't seen in over 2 months. A house that was about to be hollowed out. Bernice met me at the curb, her expression a mixture of grim determination and nervous excitement. Last chance to reconsider, big brother, she said. though there was no real question in her voice. Reconsider what, Bernice? My own damn life? I pushed past her, the crutches awkward on the familiar walkway. The key slid into the lock. The click echoed. Then, chaos. Curtis, my beautiful, loyal golden retriever, came bounding down the stairs, a furry cannonball of unrestrained joy, yelping and licking, nearly knocking me off my crutches. I knelt, burying my face in his soft fur, a single genuine emotion finally breaking through the icy resolve. Relief. He was safe. He was with me. The house. It was immaculate. Disturbingly so. Not a speck of dust. Gleaming surfaces. The air smelled faintly of lemon polish and Silvio's cheap cologne. The woman who'd treated housework as a form of medieval torture had apparently discovered a latent passion for domesticity. For him. A fresh wave of cold fury washed over me. All right, I barked at the movers who were hovering uncertainly. Let's get to work. Bedroom first, my suite, then the office. Systematically, we moved. My pre-marriage bedroom set, the antique grandfather clock, my books, my tools from the garage, every last wrench and socket, half the kitchenware as per Reggie's precise instructions, the big screen TV, my recliner. Each item loaded onto the truck was a small victory, a reclamation. We came to Gage's room. I paused. The kid was a disrespectful, ungrateful little shit, but he was still, technically, a kid. Reggie's advice had been clear. Anything purchased with joint funds during the marriage was divisible. The top-of-the-line gaming system, the sprawling desk, the ergonomic chair, all bought with money I had earned. I thought of his snide, "We don't miss you." I thought of the years of sullen resentment. "Take it," I said to the movers, gesturing at the console. "All of it." If there was a flicker of guilt, I extinguished it. He'd made his choice. By 4 in the afternoon, the house was a shell. Echoing empty spaces where a life had supposedly been lived. Barbara's things, her clothes, her makeup, her ridiculous collection of scented candles, remained untouched. I had no interest in her detritus. We ate pizza on the bare living room floor, surrounded by the ghosts of furniture. One of the movers, a burly guy with sympathetic eyes, cleared his throat. "Rough day, man." I just nodded, not trusting myself to speak. The spicy pepperoni burned my tongue, a welcome distraction from the acid churning in my gut. 7 p.m. The truck was loaded. I did a final walkthrough. The silence was profound, accusing. I locked the door, the click of the deadbolt sounding unnervingly final. No note, no warning. Let her walk into the void. Let her experience, just for a moment, the emptiness she'd so casually inflicted. That, I thought, was a fitting overture. Back at my new apartment, a small, characterless two-bedroom I'd leased sight unseen, the chaos was overwhelming. Boxes piled high, furniture shrouded in blankets. My leg throbbed, a savage, deep ache. Exhaustion pressed down on me like a physical weight. But beneath it, a dark, undeniable satisfaction. The first strike had been delivered, and it had been devastating. Curtis, sensing my mood, curled at my feet, a warm, reassuring presence. Sunday evening, showtime. My phone, which had been ominously silent, erupted, a barrage of texts, each one more frantic, more furious than the last. "Everett, where the heck is everything? This isn't funny." "You bastard! You took Curtis? I'm calling the police. You can't do this." "Answer your phone, you coward, or I swear to God you'll regret this day for the rest of your miserable life." I read them slowly, a grim smile playing on my lips. The calls started, incessant, shrill. I let them go to voicemail, each unanswered ring a small, sweet torment. Then, a new message popped up. From Bernice. A short video clip from her doorbell camera, strategically aimed across the street. Barbara. Wild-eyed, hair disheveled, pacing the empty driveway, her phone clamped to her ear, screeching. "He took everything. The son of a witch took the dog. He gutted the place. He can't do this to me!" Her voice cracked, a raw, animalistic sound of pure, unadulterated rage and disbelief. I watched it, again and again. That was worth something. "Yeah, buddy," I murmured, scratching Curtis behind the ears. "She finally gets it." The next week was a blur of legal consultations with Reggie, physical therapy sessions that left me gritting my teeth against the pain and the slow, painstaking process of turning an empty apartment into a semblance of a home. I ignored Barbara's escalating threats, her desperate voicemails oscillating between fury and a pathetic, wheedling tone. Reggie assured me I was on solid legal ground. We filed. Divorce. Irreconcilable differences. A bland, sterile term for such a messy, brutal severing. Then, Gage. A text, blunt and unpunctuated. "Hey, can I come over?" Curiosity, a perverse and unwelcome flicker, got the better of me. "If you have something to say it to my face," I replied. He showed up that Sunday, a thundercloud in worn-out sneakers. He didn't look at me, just slumped onto the edge of the sofa I'd finally unwrapped. "Everything's messed up," he muttered, picking at a loose thread on his jeans. She's losing it. That guy, Silvio, he's around all the time. Acts like he owns the place, like he's you." I waited, saying nothing. He finally looked up, his eyes narrowed, a hint of his mother's cunning in them. "She told me to say that stuff, on the phone, about not missing you. Said you were just calling to be a dick and make her feel bad. Said if I told you to get lost, she'd get me that new VR headset." A cold knot tightened in my stomach, bribing her own son to deliver a message of contempt. Classy. "And did you get it?" I asked, my voice devoid of emotion. He looked down. "Yeah, of course he did." "Well, Gage," I said, standing up, the effort making my leg scream in protest. "Looks like your loyalty has a price tag, about $500 if I recall. You and your mother made your choices. Now you get to live with them. I suggest you find the door." His face flushed. For a moment, I thought he might argue, might even try something stupid. But then he just deflated, a lifetime of his mother's manipulations and my own cold indifference weighing him down. He left without another word. The encounter with Silvio was inevitable, I suppose. A few days later, I was navigating the sterile aisles of the grocery store, leaning heavily on my cane, when I saw him. Lounging by the deli counter, preening like a peacock in a ridiculously tight shirt. He spotted me, a slow, predatory grin spreading across his face. He sauntered over, all cheap cologne and smug condescension. "Well, well, look what the cat dragged in." Or should I say, limped in. He chuckled, a greasy sound. "Heard you went a little scorched earth, clearing out the house. Barbara's pretty worked up. Says you've gone off the deep end. Unstable." He tapped his temple significantly. My hand tightened on the cart handle until my knuckles were white. "Stay out of it, Silvio. This is between me and Barbara." "Oh, I think it's my business now, pal." He leaned closer, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial, taunting whisper. "See, when a woman's unhappy, really unhappy, she looks for comfort, and I'm a very comforting guy. She's free now, thanks to you. We'll see who she really wants, won't we? Pretty sure it ain't the cripple who throws tantrums." Something snapped. The carefully constructed dam of my control, already weakened by weeks of pain and simmering rage, finally gave way. It wasn't a conscious decision. One moment I was gripping the cart, the next I'd lunged. Not a punch, a shove, hard. All my frustration, all my contempt, channeled into that one violent movement. He stumbled back, arms flailing, crashing into a pyramid of Frito-Lay variety packs. Chips exploded everywhere. "What the heck, man?" he yelped, his smugness replaced by genuine shock. And then, the slap. A full-bodied, open-palmed crack across his smirking face. The sound echoed through the aisle, sharp and shockingly loud. A collective gasp from the other shoppers. Silvio staggered, his hand flying to his cheek, his eyes wide with disbelief and a dawning fury. "That," I said, my voice a low, vicious snarl, "is for trespassing." I turned, my heart hammering, and limped away, leaving him amidst the wreckage of his dignity and a mountain of snack foods. A manager scurried over, babbling about security, about calling the police. I didn't care. I was already out the door. Let him call Barbara. Let them commiserate. The Nashville trip. Barbara, ever predictable, decided another girls' weekend was in order, to celebrate her freedom, no doubt. Bernice, my reliable source, informed me that the joint account, the one the lawyers hadn't quite managed to freeze entirely yet, had seen a significant outflow. Flights, a hotel reservation in Nashville under Barbara's name. She was partying on my dime, celebrating the demise of our marriage. The audacity, the sheer unmitigated gall. This time, I wouldn't be waiting in a sterile apartment. This time, I'd be there, at the house. Our house, still legally until the courts decreed otherwise. Reggie had confirmed I had every right to be on the property. Saturday morning. I parked down the street, out of sight. I let myself into the backyard, Curtis trotting happily beside me, oblivious to the impending drama. I waited. The hours crawled by. My leg ached. The sun beat down. Sunday afternoon. Her car pulled into the driveway. She emerged, rolling a suitcase, a weary but triumphant smirk on her face. She didn't see me until I stepped out from behind the overgrown hydrangea bush. Her eyes widened. The smirk vanished, replaced by a look of pure, unadulterated shock, quickly morphing into fury. "What in the ever-loving heck are you doing here, Everett?" she hissed, dropping the suitcase handle with a clatter. "You can't just stalk me." "My name is still on the deed, Barbara," I said, my voice calm, almost gentle. It was the calmness that always unnerved her the most. "Or did you forget that while you were blowing through our savings in Nashville? Another girls' trip, was it? Or was Silvio warming your bed again?" Her face contorted. "I needed a break. Gage is impossible. You've been a nightmare and—" I laughed, a harsh, barking sound. "My disappearing act? I was in a hospital bed, Barbara, for weeks, while you were, otherwise, occupied. And then you told me to die quickly. Remember? Because my suffering was an inconvenience to you." "Oh, stop playing the victim!" she shrieked, her voice rising. "If you'd been half a man, a decent husband, maybe I wouldn't have needed a distraction." "Distraction? Is that what you call screwing the neighbor while your husband nearly bleeds out? You're pathetic." Her eyes, cold and hard, flickered to Curtis, who was sniffing around the patio furniture I'd left behind. "Give me my dog," she snapped, a sudden, desperate edge to her voice. I raised an eyebrow. "Your dog? Funny, I don't recall you ever walking him, or feeding him, or doing much of anything besides occasionally patting him on the head when it suited your image of a happy family. No, Barbara. Curtis stays with me." That's when she lunged. A feral snarl ripped from her throat, her perfectly manicured nails aiming for my face. "You piece of shit. You come to my house." "Half mine," I corrected, sidestepping her clumsy attack. "And you stand there judging me?" Her momentum carried her forward. I didn't lay a hand on her, not really. I simply shifted. She was off balance, fueled by rage and, I suspected, several overpriced Nashville cocktails. Her arms windmilled, a shriek, and then a glorious resounding splash as she pitched headfirst into the unheated swimming pool. I walked to the edge, looking down at her as she sputtered, hair plastered to her face, mascara running in black rivulets down her cheeks. She looked like a drowned rat. You asshole!" she screamed, flailing in the shallow end. "Don't ever touch me again, Barbara," I said, my voice quiet, but carrying the weight of absolute conviction. "And don't ever presume to know what's mine." Curtis barked, a sharp, affirmative sound. For a fleeting second, I saw something in her eyes. Fear. Real, unadulterated fear. It was satisfying. Then it was gone, replaced by a burning, incandescent hatred. "You'll pay for this, Everett. I'll ruin you. I'll take you for everything." I almost smiled. "Darling," I said, savoring the word, "you already tried, and you failed. I'm still here, and I'm just getting started." I turned and walked away, leaving her shivering and swearing in the chlorinated water. The neighbors were probably watching. Let them. Let them see the queen dethroned. The fallout from the pool incident was predictable. More frantic calls to Reggie from Barbara's increasingly desperate lawyer, accusations of assault, threats of restraining orders. Reggie, bless his cynical heart, just laughed. "She fell in a pool, Everett, after lunging at you. On property you co-own. She doesn't have a leg to stand on, pardon the pun." The final act of this little drama involved Gage. He called, his voice a whiny adolescent drawl. "Everett? Mom says you, locked up all the money for college. She says you have to pay. It's your job, man." I agreed to meet him at my apartment, my turf. He barged in, all sullen posture and simmering resentment. "She says you're trying to screw me over, my college fund. You can't do that." I leaned on my cane, the ever-present ache in my leg a dull reminder of the catalyst for all this. "Gage, let me be clear. The money your mother systematically drained from our accounts for her shopping sprees, her vacations with Silvio, and God knows what else. That was your college fund, or more accurately, it was our money, which she pissed away. You want to go to college? Get a job. Apply for scholarships. Ask your mother to sell some of her ill-gotten gains, or maybe Silvio can chip in from his pool cleaning money." His face darkened. "Don't talk about Silvio like that. He's better than you ever were." "Is he?" I asked, my voice soft. "Is he the one who's going to bail your mother out when the creditors come calling? Is he the one who's going to teach you about consequences? Because I am, Gage. Right now." "Screw you!" he screamed, his voice cracking. "I need that money. If you don't pay, I'll make you pay." "Is that a threat, Gage?" I asked, my eyes narrowing. "Because it sounds a lot like a threat, and I'm getting really tired of threats from your family." "You'll regret this!" he yelled, his face contorted with a rage that was a chilling echo of his mother's. He spun on his heel, slammed the door, and then, a few moments later, I heard it. Thump. Crash. Adrenaline, cold and sharp, surged through me. I threw open the door. Gage, in the parking lot, swinging a brick. My car, the windshield spiderwebbed. The side mirror hung by a wire. "You worthless old bastard!" he shrieked, winding up for another swing. "This is what you get. You ruined everything." Neighbors were emerging, their faces pale masks of shock and curiosity. Curtis was barking, a frantic, high-pitched sound. "Drop the brick, Gage," I roared, my voice cracking with a fury that matched his own. He brought it down again, on the hood this time, a sickening crunch of metal. Then he threw it, hard, at the driver's side window, which shattered into a million glittering fragments. I had my phone out. 911. "Yes, I need police. Vandalism in progress. My stepson. He's destroying my car." I gave the address, my voice surprisingly steady. The wail of sirens, approaching fast. Gage froze, the fight suddenly draining out of him, replaced by a dawning, terrified understanding. The officers were out, guns drawn, their commands sharp, impersonal. "On the ground! Hands behind your head! Now!" He dropped, sobbing, snot and tears streaking his face. He won't pay! He's trying to ruin my life!" One of the officers looked at me. "You want to press charges, sir?" I looked at Gage, a crumpled, pathetic heap on the asphalt. I thought of Barbara's cool dismissal, her casual cruelty. I thought of Silvio's smug taunts. I thought of the endless nights of pain in that hospital bed. "Yes," I said, my voice hard, unwavering. "Yes, I do. Malicious destruction of property and trespassing." They hauled him up, cuffed him, read him his rights. He shot me a look of pure, unadulterated hatred. You'll regret this. Mom will get me out. She'll fix this. You'll see. I just watched them put him in the cruiser, watched it drive away. The neighbors whispered, some filming with their phones. I turned, limped back into my apartment, and closed the door on the whole damn circus. The silence that followed was deafening, and, in a strange, twisted way, profoundly peaceful. The legalities dragged on, as legalities do. Gage got juvenile court, a slap on the wrist, a fine restitution for the car, which Barbara predictably whined she couldn't afford, and mandatory anger management. Silvio, true to his parasitic nature, vanished once the money dried up and the drama escalated beyond his comfort zone. Good riddance. The divorce was finalized in a sterile courtroom, Barbara a pale, diminished version of her former self. She tried a last-ditch appeal to my sentimentality? Everett, I don't know how it all went so wrong. I looked at her, truly looked at her, perhaps for the first time without the filter of my own ego and expectations. Just a tired, faded woman who'd made a series of bad choices. It went wrong, Barbara, I said, my voice devoid of heat. The moment you decided your fleeting pleasures were more important than your vows. The moment you looked at your husband, broken and bleeding, and decided he wasn't worth the gas money. That's when it went wrong. Everything after that? Just consequences. I walked away, leaving her standing alone in the echoing courthouse hallway. Months have passed. My leg is better, though the limp is likely permanent, a souvenir of my ordeal. Or perhaps my liberation. Curtis is snoring at my feet. My apartment is small, but it's mine. The quiet isn't lonely, it's earned. Bernice still fusses, but there's a new respect in her eyes. Tessa the nurse calls sometimes. Coffee, dinner, a tentative friendship blossoming in the ruins of my old life. She's kind, decent. I'm not ready for more. Maybe never will be. Do I regret it? Emptying the house, the slap in the grocery store, pushing Barbara into the pool, calling the cops on Gage? The man I was, the one who believed in control and order, the one who thought he could bend the world to his will, might have flinched, might have felt a pang of something. But the man who lay in that hospital bed, abandoned and betrayed, the man who listened to his wife effectively sign his death warrant over the phone, that man regrets nothing. They called me a villain. Barbara, in her tearful, self-pitying calls to anyone who would listen. Gage, in his sullen therapy sessions. Silvio, probably, to his next conquest. Maybe they're right, but sometimes, when the world has pushed you, and broken you, and left you for dead, the only way to reclaim yourself is to become the thing they fear, to embrace the darkness they cultivated in you, to become the villain of their story, just so you can finally be the hero of your own. And as I sit here, in the quiet solitude of my reclaimed life, I find I'm surprisingly comfortable with that role. After all, every villain believes he's the good guy. And in my story, I finally am. The cost was high, the methods brutal. But the peace? That, as they say, is priceless, or at least worth the considerable expense.